You're listening to Change Your POV Podcast, episode 35.
But if you're not there in your mind, you're screwed. So get your mind right. That's the most important thing, to go into this with knowing that you just go in there with the no quit attitude, that no matter how painful it gets, that you're just never gonna quit. And if you can do that, you'll prove a lot to yourself, and you'll realize that you can do anything literally that you put your mind to.
Welcome to Change Your POV Podcast, helping you navigate transitions in your life, like entering and exiting college or the military, changing jobs or careers, and providing you with the coaching and mentorship needed to help you advance in your personal or professional life. Sometimes all you need is to change your point of view. Now, here's your host, Eddie Lazary.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Change Your POV Podcast. I am your host, Eddie Lazary, and I am here with Bennett Tanton. This is the third part of a four-part series all around pre-military. So for those of you that are interested in joining the military, perhaps you've been kind of kicking it around, thinking about it, you want to dip your toe in a little bit, see what it's all about. Perhaps you've already made a decision to join the military once you are eligible, i.e. graduate high school, etc. Or maybe you've already joined under the delayed entry program. You've got one more year of high school left before you actually go off to basic training, but you've already gone to the MEP station, you've raised your right hand, you've made that commitment, you've signed that dotted line. This four-part series is just for you. So, like I said, this is part 3. If you haven't listened to the two previous sections of this four-part series, I encourage you to go back to changeyourpov.com/episode 31, where we talk about pre-military preparation. Preparation in terms of what you need to do prior to leaving for the military. I'm not going to spoil it for you. You're just going to have to go back and listen. Followed by episode 2, or part 2 of this series, you can find changeyourpov.com/episode 33, and that talks about knowledge. What are things that you need to know specifically about your job, your MOS, the military, the branch that you're enlisting in, etc. So head on over to listen to episode 33 to listen about the knowledge that you should have prior to going into the military. This week is episode 35, of course, and we're going to talk about pre-military and everything that has to do with physical, your body composition, what's called APFT, or your physical training. Every branch of the service has some sort of physical training test. It varies branch to branch, and the criteria in terms of your min-max and number of repetitions, time limits, all that is going to vary with each branch. So we're not going to get into specific APFT requirements for each branch. However, in the show notes page of this episode, I will include an outstanding link that you can go to your specific branch and look up what your specific branch APFT requirements are. And then next week, if you tune in next week, that will be our conclusion of this four-part series for pre-military, where we're going to talk about expectations in episode 37. What should you expect when you hop on that bus and you're standing on the yellow footprints? And if you don't know what that means, in next week, tune in and we'll describe for you what the yellow footprints are all about. So before we get into this discussion with Bennett, I would like to say thank you to this week's sponsor, Audible.com. Audible.com is the premier provider of digital audiobooks. Audible has over 180,000 titles to choose from in every genre, from thrillers, business, romance, comedy, sci-fi. Of course, you've got military. And it's available on your iPhone, Kindle, Android, and more than 500 devices for listening anytime, anywhere. Right now, I'm listening to a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. This is an audiobook for busy people. If you want less on your plate and more for your life and career, tune into the #1 Wall Street Journal bestseller, The One Thing. the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. The one thing will bring your life and your work into focus. Authors Gary Keller and Jay Papasan teach you the tricks to cut through the clutter, achieve better results in less time, and dial down stress and master what matters to you. So you could head on over to changeyourpov.com/freebook for your free 30-day trial and a free audio download. Again, that's changeyourpov.com/freebook for your 30-day free trial and your free audio download. So go and download The One Thing. It's an excellent book. All right, now let's get with Bennett and start this discussion. So we're talking about physical, part 3 of PreMilitary. So I've got a list of things we're going to cover here, and feel free to interject, Bennett, with whatever comes to mind. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is when you're preparing to go into the military, a lot of people, like I've even met guys that said, oh, I would have joined the military, but I wasn't in good enough shape. Or, I would have joined the military, but, I didn't play sports in high school and I'm just not the athletic type. So a lot of people get these misconceptions in their head about what's required to be in the military. And I think a lot of it, and we've already covered this in the previous episode about, all these movies, right? Everybody sees the Navy SEALs and the Special Forces and the, all this, hoorah warrior stuff. And everybody just assumes that's what everybody in the military does.
A lot of them do.
Oh, right. And I'm not saying that you got to be,
because they're going to turn you into what they need.
Right.
At the end of the day. But
absolutely.
Here's my nugget of advice is get in the best shape that you can before, because it's just going to make your life easier. Okay. So prepare to do it and run. It doesn't matter how strong you are at the end of the day, except for maybe with the Marine Corps stuff. You gotta be able to do pull-ups. Right.
Well, we're going to cover all that here in a minute, but I just wanted to set the preface for this episode and say what we're going to talk about isn't to get you prepared to become a Navy SEAL. This guidance isn't to prepare you to be a Special Forces or a Delta Force or some elite, a Ranger or whatever. Because to be honest with you, to qualify for a lot of those special or elite forces, there's a whole
mental thing. So I guess I want to preface this before we get knee deep into the rest of the stuff. You got to understand that 90% of this stuff is mental, and that you can be as physically ready as you want, or as that you can be. But if you're not there in your mind, you're screwed. So get your mind right. That's the most important thing, to go into this with knowing that you just go in there with the no quit attitude, that no matter how painful it gets, that you're just never going to quit. And if you can do that, you'll prove a lot to yourself, and you'll realize that you can do anything literally that you put your mind to.
I totally agree. It's all about mindset. Absolutely. So this is basically, we're going to talk to you about, you're an average, let's say, high school student. Maybe you're an athlete, maybe you're not, and you want to join the military, and you just don't know where to start or what to start looking at, where you should be based off of where you are now. So the first thing is you got to come up with kind of a baseline to figure out where you are and kind of some targets on where you want to be. And the first thing is called the BMI. It's a body mass index. And, there's a lot of, discussions around BMI and different ways of measuring it and calculating it. And it's really, really simple. In the show notes page of this episode, I will have a link in there for a BMI calculator. It's very simple. You put in your height and your weight and your age, and it will give you a number. And that number, off to the right-hand side of the calculator, you'll see there's a range, like between this number and this number. Basically your healthy weight, basically, and if you're between this number and this, and it just gradually increases. I have a link that I will put in the show notes. It's one link. You click on it, and there'll be information about all of the APFT standards. and you'll be able to click on whatever branch, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and it will take you to each of the separate
and at the end
criteria
of the day
for the
too,
APFT.
when it comes to the body fat, the body fat is more important than the weight, because
Correct.
it's like my max weight is 189, and I hadn't weighed 189 since like the 8th grade when I went in. But as long as you stay below that body fat, then you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is just to kind of point you in the direction, like where to start. Like if you knew nothing and just wanted a compass basically to point you in the right direction, that's what we're talking about. So head on over to the show notes page for this episode at changeyourpov.com/episode 35. And there will be a body mass index
Really, episode
calculator
35
link
already.
It is already. Can you believe that? No. So record your height and your weight, right? So write down your height and your weight. And you can use this calculator as you progress through your training, pre-training, we'll call it. And a lot of it depends on how much time you have between, when you start and when you go. Like if you're getting ready to leave for, say, the Marine Corps in a month, you could do a lot, but you're really limited on what you can do in terms of physical preparation than if you had, say, 6 months head start or even a year. So start as early as you can, and I'm sure your recruiter may have certain programs,
the pulley programs
where you meet,
too,
like
those type of things.
Yeah, right. But they're not going to. They might also point you in the right direction. But I mean, meeting with the recruiter for 30 minutes once a week isn't going to get you into where you need to be from a physical perspective. It just isn't. So record your height and your weight. I use a cell phone app on my phone. There's tons of them out there. Just go to your app store and just type in, height, weight recorder or something to that effect. And there'll be tons of apps. You can just record it and you can track your progress or whatever. Just to kind of get a baseline for where you started and the kind of direction you're headed. And then the other thing is we kind of touched on it, and it's understand your branch APFT standards. That's your physical fitness test standards. Now, keep in mind that you got to really kind of know what you're looking for, because your basic training or your boot camp APFT standards may be different than the general active duty component. What I mean by that is, if I were to leave for basic training for the Army today, the basic training APFT standard is going to be different than if I was already through basic training and at my permanent duty station. So everybody in the military has, no matter if you're in for 4 years, 10 years, 25 years, everyone has a physical fitness standard that they have to maintain. And it varies in terms of the branch and the event and your age and all of that. But you can, like I said, I'll put a link in there, figure out what branch you're joining. If you're joining the Marine Corps, there's a link in there for the Marine Corps, and you can figure out what the basic standard is. And really, that's all you got to shoot for. And it's nothing, you don't need any special equipment or dumbbells or anything crazy like that. Everything that's tested in the military is you could do, in your backyard. It's push-ups, it's sit-ups, it's run. I think the biggest thing is just mapping out a mile course. And so you can time yourself to run 1 mile, run 2 miles, run 3 miles.
I can tell you this, folks, if you live by a beach, go freaking run on the sand.
Oh, yeah.
And I guarantee you that if you do that, when you get to boot camp, you'll be flying. Just saying.
Yep.
Just a little tidbit, just a little tip there.
Yep. And if you don't live on the beach, go find yourself a volleyball court in a park somewhere and just run really fast back and forth. No, I'm kidding.
No.
I thought I was serious, right?
Didn't. But either way, no,
You're like, really?
You did, so
yeah,
whatever.
Shit, hell yeah. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is, there's 3 things. It's strength training, cardio training, and flexibility, and we'll cover each one separately. So the first one is strength training. Now, and I bring this up because there was a young gentleman that was interested in joining the Navy. I tried to talk him into joining the Army, but no, he was hell-bent on the Navy, which I'm fine with. So he wanted to know, he wanted me to help create kind of like a training plan. So he was going to go to what's
Oh,
that?
right.
Like Planet Fitness or something. Yeah, and so I put together kind of like this training kind of program to kind of help him out. But the only thing he wanted to do, like he would go to the gym and he would just like lift and just like
Yeah,
work on
right.
his chest and his biceps, right? So being physically fit to join the military has nothing to do with like how big and bulky and muscular and sexy
Hell
and
no.
whatever, right? I mean, put the image of firefighters in the the calendar edition of, you know what I'm talking about, the
Right.
ripped muscles and the shirtless, right? That's what everybody thinks you need to look like in order to be fit enough to join the military. I'm telling you right now, that's not it. So there is the basic element of a PFT, but then there's alternates. And the reason why you may have alternates is, let's say you just had surgery, for example, or whatever, and you're still recovering. So you can't really do a run because you had surgery, let's say on your foot or something. I'm making it up. So you could do an alternate
Right.
event like a swim where it still tests your cardiovascular endurance and all that without injuring your foot. So there are alternate type. So if you get injured or if you've got a profile, as they call it, it doesn't get you out of being tested for physical fitness. You still have to maintain your physical fitness. So core muscles, you still want to work on your core muscles, but those include your chest and arms. Big one is abs, because that basically controls everything in your body. Your buttocks, right, which is your ass cheeks. Your quads, your thighs, and your calves. So whatever you're going to do, if you're going to go to the gym to prep to join the military, I would work on those basic core muscle groups, because if you do that and you work them evenly, then you'll get a full, well-rounded body workout. And I'm not going to get into specific exercises for each, but if you go to Planet Fitness, and I'm sure they offer free, like personal trainer for whatever. I think the first few times you go there, when you sign up, you get like a free personal trainer. You just say, hey, show me some exercises to work out my chest and arms. So the next one is cardio, and this is probably the biggest one in my opinion. So your run is varied, so work on your run, but work on varied distances. What I mean by that is, work on sprints, like 50-meter sprints, 30-meter sprints. Work on some sprints, because when you're in the military, my need to run short distances from one building to the next or across the street or whatever the case may be, I did more sprinting in
Right.
combat than I ever did. I never had to run 3 miles in combat. I
No.
mean, it just doesn't happen. If you're running 3 miles in combat, then that means somebody left your ass behind,
Right.
and you're
Right.
and you're running back and you're running back to the fob, like frantically trying to get back to safety. But yeah, you're going to do a lot of sprinting. You're going to sprint everywhere. Bullets start flying, amazing things happen. Your body just shifts into high gear, and you just find yourself sprinting everywhere. So practice your sprints, but you're also going to need to practice short distances. That's between 1 and 2 miles. Your longer distances, you'll want to get in some of those. That's between 5 and 8 miles. And then, of course, I put swimming. And swimming, I mean, we're joking about it, but be honest with you, swimming is one of the
Hell
best
yes.
cardiovascular trainings you can do. It's a full body workout. And if you're not a swimmer, trust me, go to the YMCA or wherever you got a swimming pool and just start swimming a few laps. I guarantee you the next day you are going to be one sore mamma jamma for sure. The next one a lot of people don't really consider or think about a lot is flexibility. Trust me, the more flexible you are, the
Especially
easier it's going to
recovery.
be for you to absolutely, yeah, huge on recovery. But it's going to help you overall. It's going to help with your run. It's going to help you with your strength training. It's going to help with all of the obstacles that you're going to be asked to do at basic training. But overall, it reduces your risk of injury. The more flexible you are, the less likely you are to, pull a pull a hamstring or something like that. So focus on your hamstrings, all right, your groin muscles and your hip flexors. At the very least, work on those three. But you can do this, when you're sitting at home watching your favorite episode of, what is it,
Yeah.
House of Cards. So yeah, and then the last thing, and then we'll wrap it up. But the last thing is diet, and I am not going to sit here and try to convince you that I know anything about diet, but I will tell you that diet is important, and I got a link in the show notes page that you can go and find out all kinds of information about diet, proper diet, what you should be eating.
If and the other thing is too, if you want to get used to it, don't be the guide or like one of the squad leaders for like the first few months or the first like month, if you can help it, because you'll never eat, because leaders eat
Right, right.
last.
Oh yeah,
So
that's
shit,
right.
it just sucked. Which I had a few pounds to lose when I got to boot camp. I'm not gonna lie, but I
Yeah,
don't think I ate the first week I was there.
right.
So
Yeah,
I was so fucking
and
hungry.
if it and if a drill sergeant walks up to you, what do they
Yeah,
call
it's
them in the
drill
Marine Corps?
sergeant,
Not drill sergeant. What do
drill
they call them?
instructor, drill sergeant.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Drill instructor, yeah. So if a drill sergeant or drill instructor walks up
Yeah,
to you
drill
while you're
instructor.
eating and they asks, okay, if they walk up to you while you're eating at the chow hall and they ask while you're eating, if they ask, "Are you
You
done
say,
with that?" the answer is
no,
not.
I'm still eating, drill
No, I'm
sergeant.
still eating.
No, shit'll get fucking
Oh my
gone.
god, my tray ended up on the other side of the cafeteria, and I
And
was like,
just
negative, I'm
remember
still
this:
eating. He said,
everything they show you on how to do shit in the chow hall has a purpose. I don't know if they did that in the
"Yep,
army, because I never went to army boot camp. But like the way you carry your drink, the way you carry your tray,
yeah,
all of it has a purpose,
oh yeah."
and you'll find out later.
So all I'm going to say about diet is, like Bennett said, they're going to take care of that
Pretty
piece
much.
for you when you get there. But if you're going to prepare yourself before you go, here's my recommendations: drink nothing but
Get
water.
used to it.
Like
Stop the
stop
coffee
the
too,
stop the
'cause you'll have a headache
stop the
so
coffee,
bad.
stop the sodas.
Get rid
That's
of
right.
caffeine.
Get rid of all of that. Drink water. And you could pretty much just eat what you're normally eating, but I would get in the habit, if you're a kind of person that only eats like one meal a day, I would probably start eating maybe three smaller meals a day just to get you acclimated, because you will be going to the dining facility 3 times a day. Now at the beginning, you may not get a whole lot of time to eat it, but you're going to have an opportunity to eat 3 times a day. And so get into that habit now, 3 times a day. Drink nothing but water, and probably drink more than you're used to, because that's just going to help with your hydration. Because I'm telling you, um, if you've never seen anybody become a heat casualty or suffer from dehydration, it
Not
is
drinking. And it'll fuck you up
absolutely
for the rest of your life.
horrific.
That's the truth.
It absolutely
Been
will.
there, done that,
Yep.
got the t-shirt.
So let's recap. Understand your BMI, your body mass index. There will be a calculator. We can go in there and figure that out. Kind of get a gauge on kind of where you are. You don't need to be like an elite athlete, but you should at least know kind of what your uphill struggle or battle or objective goal should be. Record your height and weight and keep log of it. So maybe record yourself, every Sunday or once a week or something, to get kind of a gauge on where you're headed, what direction you're going, what progress you're making. Understand what your branch's APFT standards are. And again, in the show notes page, there will be a link for that. Strength training. So work on your core muscles, your chest and arms, your abs, your buttocks, your quads, your calves at a minimum. Cardio training. You need to work on varied distance runs. So sprints, short distances is between 1 and 2 miles, longer distances between 5 and 8. And if you have an opportunity, I would definitely check out doing some swimming just for an overall body workout. And then work on your flexibility. This will reduce your
So
chances of
important.
injury greatly. It is. So hamstrings, groin, and hip flexors
Hamstrings,
at
especially
a
because you'll
minimum.
wake up in the middle of the night in the rack with cramping,
Oh
and
yeah,
dude,
cramping.
that'll ruin your
Oh
fucking
yeah.
night of sleep.
Yeah. Yep. And then focus on the main events: push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, and run.
It will not hurt you to do pull-ups, no matter what, because
Correct.
you're gonna
Absolutely.
need the upper body strength to do them. So, and you know what? If you don't do pull-ups, you won't be able to do them. It's one of those few exercises that unless you practice it, you're gonna suck at it. So
Mm-hmm.
practice it,
Yep.
Even if you're going in the Army or the Navy or the Air Force or whatever, and they don't require it, still do it because it'll help you with your push-ups greatly. Trust me. Yada yada yada.
Yep. And I didn't mention this yet, but you know what? This wasn't available when I was preparing to go, but it is now. Find yourself an obstacle course like a Tough Mudder or Spartan race. I've done 2 Spartan races now, and I will tell you that not only was it fun, you grab a couple of guys, some buddies of yours, and you go do it together as a team. It's a great workout, but it'll also get you in that mindset of working through obstacles, working through objectives, testing your limits. It's just an all-around good idea. So find yourself a Tough Mudder or Spartan race near you. Sign up for it.
Start with the Spartan race.
And go do one.
It's a little easier.
Yeah, I recommend
First.
Spartan. Yeah, and then the diet. Just stop your smoking,
clean.
Stop the coffee, stop the sodas. Yeah, just eat clean. That's really all you got to worry about. Don't worry about all these.
Yeah, don't
people
get so
take diet and they just make it way more complicated than it has to be.
You guys know what to eat. Eat clean. Don't eat McDonald's.
Yeah.
Don't eat Hardee's, even though that shit tastes great.
Right.
Trust me. There ain't nothing like a bacon cheeseburger.
Yep.
You know what? If you want a bacon
That's
cheeseburger,
right.
make that shit at home. Right. And
just do it the right way.
Leave the bun on the side. I have a freaking gluten issue, so but anyway. Yeah. So especially with the diet is don't get sucked in by the fad diet and I'm sure there's like a Navy SEAL diet and a Special Forces diet and a Ranger diet. I'm sure there's all of them out, paleo, freaking, all of them. There's so many different things. Just eat as clean as you can. And I beg you, stop it with the coffee, even though I love coffee too. And you know what? There will be a time when coffee will be the biggest part of your military career because there's so many coffee connoisseurs in the military. You'll never believe it, but not in boot camp. And quit smoking because that shit's going to kill you when you get there. If you don't, because trust me, when you get out and you get into the fleet or you get into the force, you'll smoke, you'll dip, you'll freaking chew, and sometimes you'll do all 3 at the same time. So at the end of the day, but going into boot camp, you're just going to make your life easier if you don't do it. So,
all right, man, that's pretty much it. Thanks for coming on, and look forward to next week's episode. We're going to talk about expectations. All right. So you can, again, find everything we talked about over at the show notes page for this episode at changeyourpov.com/35. Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. We've got a lot more great content headed your way. If you want to contact me directly, you can email me at eddie@changeyourpov.com. I would love to hear from you. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Change Your POV podcast with Eddie Lazary. Check out more content by going to changeyourpov.com. And remember, your ability and willingness to change your point of view will open doors of opportunity.